Starting. Okay. So what we learned so far is there's two types of sentences. A sentence which begins with a noun. All right. A jumlatul ismiya. In English it would be nominal. Alhamdulillah.
Yarhamukallah.
Such as Abdullah Kabir. Abdullah is big. Or we have a verbal sentence. Begins with a verb called fi'liya. Such as ذهب, just keeping them simple. ذهب Zubair. Zubair went. This one begins with a verb. This one begins with a noun. This noun, this first noun we said, is called the mubtada. Mubtada.
Next question right quick.
Uh-huh.
Now when you said like Zahab Zubair.
Uh-huh.
Okay, in English we'll say Zubair went.
Right.
But in Arabic, what they literally saying went Zubair?
Yes.
Or do they?
I mean,
that just sounds right to them.
No, because they start with the fi'l. They start with the fi'l, and then they clarify who did it. You understand? So sometimes...
And that's just how they, and that sounds proper to them.
Yes.
Because I know when, like, other languages, you know, when they be learning to speak English, they'll say that. You know, they'll say it backwards.
Possible, because of their language. Yeah, because that might be their order in their language, and when they try to transfer it into the new language, that's how they do it. Possible. But as we said before, for instance, we say خلق الله السماوات, or just say as-sama, just for ease of writing. Allah created the heaven. You might find in the Quran, Allahu خلق السماوات, خلق as-sama, for example. You might find that. Depending on what's being emphasized. What is being emphasized? Here, creation is being emphasized. Here, the fact that Allah did it is being emphasized. We went over that before. But in general, the verb comes first in general. That would be the most proper speech unless there's a purpose for other than that. 1 second. If you begin all your speeches with the noun and then the verb, they would say you don't know Arabic well. But if you begin some of your sentences with the noun and then the verb for a purpose, and you're doing it to emphasize and to be eloquent, and you're emphasizing something or whatever, then it's different. But if you began all your speech with the noun and then the verb, they say this guy don't know proper Arabic yet. Okay? Now, some of this, what we're going to go over, is unnecessary for maybe Abdullah right now, and maybe Zubair will love it. Maybe neither one of you will love it right now, but later on you will love it later. So take from it the most important part, which I'll emphasize, inshallah, and the rest of it, just, store it away, whatever. The fact that Abdullah Kabir, the fact that we say Abdullah is big, the fact that Abdullah is the mubtada and that Kabir is the khabar, doesn't really matter to us right now. I don't think it really is that big of a deal. Except we need to remember that if you want to memorize, for instance, even though it's not completely correct, we're doing it for learning purposes, right? If you want to memorize that this is the subject and this is the predicate, I don't care. But just know that that rule will change later on. And what you have to remember is that the mubtada, what you do need to know is that the mubtada is always going to be marfu'. And that the khabar is always going to be marfu'. You do have to remember that. Do you have to remember the name mubtada and khabar? No. But if you do, then it'd be better for you in the long run. The mubtada is marfu', and Abdullah is not. Abdullah is jar wa majroor. So abd would be the mubtada, and then Allahi would be mudaf ilayhi to it, right? But abd is going to be the first part. So if we took Muhammad and made it more simple, Muhammadun kabirun. Mubtada and khabar are both marfu'. Then you have the verbal sentence. You have the fi'l.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Because I think that, like you said, if I remember that as being the subject and the predicate, I think it still be, because if you switch it around, but you said it's going to change, right? But if you did switch around Kabir Abdullah, emphasizing Kabir, right, that still would be the subject.
Well, no, if I said Kabir Abdullah in Arabic, it wouldn't make sense. In English, it wouldn't make sense. Big is Abdullah, big Abdullah. It doesn't really make sense. We're talking about the only one you can.
What's that you can change?
The fa'il and the fi'l. Down here,
Right.
the verb
Right.
first.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I was thinking you're talking about that stuff. Okay.
Okay, like I said, grammar, I say this to everybody all the time. Grammar is for Arabs. Ajrumiyya is for someone who is fluent in Arabic. Or, he wants to play with something that he's really not qualified to play with yet, but he knows he's going to use it in the future. Something like that. But Ajrumiyya is for Arabs. These books are for Arabs that's going to use Arabic terminology. It's going to use stuff that, for instance, when you say mubtada, they're going to know automatically that comes from bada'a, which means the beginning. So mubtada would probably be more like the beginning of the sentence, and khabar would be information about the beginning. But we don't have those terms in English, so I'm trying to make them into English terms which are understandable. And this is the difficulty of teaching Arabic grammar in English, unless you make it really difficult. Unless you got students that are going to sit there for, an hour or two every day and go over this and go home and spend an hour with it and train themselves like they do in a university. But just doing it, once or twice a week, or, on the side, and then you're not really like studying it, and you don't have a group of people to study it with and bounce off of and stuff, it makes it more difficult. But that doesn't mean that does not mean that we don't need some of it. And that's what we're learning. Because in order to properly read, when they start taking the vowels out, you're gonna have to know how to put Abdullahi, Kabirun. You're gonna have to know how to put those vowels on there. And it's going to help you with understanding the sentence. As we know, the vowels were not originally in the Quran. Let me see if I can find this ayat for us. In Surah At-Tawbah, this caused the early, I think it was Ali ibn Abi Talib, or maybe it was, I can't remember who it was, maybe Omar at that time, Omar or Ali, I can't remember, caused them to put the vowels on there, because before there was no dots, and there were no vowels. You know, Bismillah was just, you know, it was just written. Oh, see, I messed up and put it down already. You know? And it was written. There were no dots. There were no vowels. And so this came when people started messing up. Foreigners entered into the religion and started messing up. So one of them heard someone recite the ayat number 3 from Surah At-Tawbah, where it says, وأذان من الله ورسوله إلى الناس يوم الحج الأكبر أن الله بريء من المشركين ورسوله. Right? It says here, بريء من المشركين ورسوله. So we have mushrikeen, right, with a ya, showing that it is majroor or mansub, if we just look at it like this. And then we have rasulahu with a dhamma. That's how it is now. But when he read it, he said rasulihi, meaning Allah is free from the mushrikeen and from his messenger. Just by changing that dhamma to a kasra, said to his messenger. So he said, no, we got to do something about this. And they put the vowels on there, so that no one could make kufr and shirk and change the book of Allah. And this is, you got to realize people could change the religion at that time, more so than they can now. Because right now it's spread everywhere, and it would be hard. People memorize the Quran, and, in all different countries and all different languages who don't even understand what they're memorizing, but they memorize it exactly the way it is in the Mus'haf. This is early on. There weren't a lot of masahif. It wasn't everywhere. So they fixed it. Alhamdulillah. So because of this dhamma to a kasra, we have vowels on our book now. But you want to know what it means, because sometimes the way that something is there can tell you the deep meaning of the ayah. Because it says who instead of he somewhere, then it means something that, we don't realize that it means. And so this is from the tafsir and everything else. I don't know what happened to Zubair. So it's important for us to understand some of this terminology. So we need to know that the mubtada, the subject of the sentence, when it begins with a noun, is always going to be marfu'. And the predicate of it is always going to be marfu', the khabar. Then inside of the jumlatul fi'liyah, we have the fi'l and the fa'il. Whenever we have a fi'l, first thing we should be trying to do is figure out is it past, present, or command. We should try to figure that out right away. And then we should figure out what the fa'il is. Whenever you have a jumlatul fi'liyah, you should be figuring out who is the fa'il. Now the fa'il might be hidden inside the verb, such as in the dhahaba. If we already talked about Zubair up here, yeah, Zubair is on the road, he's getting ready to leave out, you know, blah, 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 and he says, no, dhahaba. I don't have to say Zubair again, because we were already talking about Zubair. So when I say dhahaba ila suq, for instance, to the marketplace, then I don't have to say dhahaba Zubair ila suq. I could just say dhahaba ila suq. He went to the marketplace, because we already know we're talking about Zubair. So dhahaba is built in. Versus in dhahabtu, I went, then the to here is the fa'il for ana. I did it. The ta is the fa'il. The ti, dhahabti, is the fa'il. Dhahabna, like this. And that stuff will come later on. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the fa'il has to be written like it is here, as in dhahaba. Zubair. Zubair is there as the fa'il. But whenever we figure out what the fa'il is, we figure out what is the fa'il. We said that the fa'il is always marfu'. Dhahaba Zubair. Dhahaba Zubair. Is Zubair mamnu min as-sarf Zubair, or does it have tanween on the end?
What do you ask?
Zubairu. I don't know.
I don't think it has a tanween.
I don't think so either, but I can't say that I know.
Yeah, I can't promise it either. But, okay, now if we look at another sentence and we say, Daraba Zubair Ahmed. Daraba Zubairu Ahmed. Here we have Zubair being our fa'il. Right? And Ahmed is mansoob, because it is the object of the hitting. Huh?
I thought it was describing.
No.
Making a place up.
Daraba means to hit. Daraba. Zubair hit Ahmed.
Oh, okay.
Right? So the mansoob here, this Ahmed is mansoob maf'ulun bihi, the object of the verb. He's the object of getting hit, or the object that was hit, and Zubair is the one who did the hitting. Now the beauty of this sentence is I can say Daraba Zubair Ahmed. I can say Daraba Zubairu Ahmeda. Or I can say Daraba Ahmeda Zubairu. Or I can say Zubair Daraba Ahmeda.
Okay, that's what I was getting ready to ask you. Now translate those.
Okay, give me a second. I can say Ahmeda Daraba Zubair. I can say Zubairu Ahmeda let me see. How does it go? Yeah, I can say Zubairu. Right? Or I could say, no, Daraba. I'm sorry. Daraba. So I can change this whole set, or I can say Ahmada. No, I already did that one, huh? No. Zubair Daraba. So I can change these sentences around and put them in any order I want. In Arabic, I can put the verb first, as in these two. I can put Zubair first, as in these two. Or I can put Ahmed first, as I did in these two. And it all means the same thing. Zubair hit Ahmed. As long as I put my Dhamma on my Zubair and my Fatha on my Ahmed. As long as I put the Dhamma on Zubair and the Fatha on Ahmed, then it means the same thing. Because this Fatha is going to tell us that it's the Maf'ulun Bihi, the Mansub. And this Dhamma is going to tell us that it's the Fa'il. So it doesn't matter the order that it's in. So this is the importance of knowing how to put vowels on. Now, when you get to a book, if it puts it in a tricky sentence, such as in, for instance, Ahmeda, Zubair, Daraba, that's not a common word order. They would put the vowels on that for you, because they want you to understand what they're trying to say. However, it's not necessarily always the case. They're going to put the vowels on it in there. But in normal cases, we still want to know Zahaba Zubair. If you can remember, and I don't remember where it was, but inside of some of the hadith, or some of the adhkar, or some of the, like usul sunnah, we had a problem with understanding a sentence because we missed the dhamma or the fatha. Whereas if we'd have paid attention, then we'd have known what action it was performing in the sentence. If we see the dhamma, then we know it's the doer. And if we see the fatha, then we know it's the one done to. Right? And so, it's important for us to know the fa'il is marfu', and the maf'ulun bihi is mansub. It's important for us to recognize that. Now, they're going to come along in this next chapter, in these next chapters, and start confusing us.
Okay, hold up. Dhamma is the doer.
Yes. In a verbal sentence, the fatha is what?
And the fatha is the one that is being done to.
Yeah. Not just the one. It could be the thing that it's being done to.
A thing, yeah. Whatever it's
Right.
being done to, yeah.
Right. It's the object of the verb. Okay. Now we have some examples here. Az-zihamu shadidun. The traffic. Az-ziham is like traffic. The traffic. That's the best. The crowdiness is really not the traffic. It's the crowdiness. The crowdiness is shadid. Is heavy. It's a lot. It's extreme. Shadid. So we have az-zuham. This is a nominal sentence. It begins with a noun. Az-ziham shadid. Here we have al-baytu nadifun. The house is clean. As we said, we got the mubtada and we got the khabar. all of them are marfu'. Then kana comes along, wa akhawatuha. Kana wa akhawatuha means it has some sisters. Meaning it has some sisters, they do the same thing to the sentence that kana does. Whatever kana does, whatever changes kana makes to the sentence, then the sisters do the same changes. They have the same effect. Alhamdulillah, they're going to bring the sisters of kana here. Now we have kana الزحام شديدا. When we brought kana, الزحام stayed the same, no change. But شديدا became منصوب. kana made the khabar of زحام منصوب. As well as كان البيت نظيفا. كان will make the khabar of بيت منصوب. So if I say, I'll use Muhammad because it's easier. Or it's not easier, it's the same thing, no problem. If I say Abdullah Kabir, Abdullahi Kabirun. If I put kana there, I say kana Abdullahi Kabiran. If I say, what did I say? Oh no, I used the verb for Zubair. No problem. So, kana Abdullahi Kabiran. The kana is going to change the khabar to being mansoob. And it's not going to be called, and this is why I say it doesn't matter about the terminology to some extent. Az-Zuham, this here, let me go over here. Az-Zuham in this first example and al-Bayt in this first example, they're called the Mubtada. And Shadid and Nadif are called the Khabar. Follow me? Okay. Zubair. Okay. Now when we add kana, Az-Zuham and al-Bayt are now called Ismu Kana, the noun of Kana, and they stay marfu'. Whereas Shadid and Nadif become Khabar Kana, and it's mansoob. The name changes. Why is it important that the name changes? It seems, man, that's just dumb, man. Now you're making stuff difficult. Well, if we say that the mubtada, and we'll find out later on, because something like inna, if I said inna here, it would change a ziham to zihama. Inna zihama. And we said that the mubtada is always marfu'. Well, when I place inna in front of it, it's still the mubtada, but it's not called the mubtada anymore because it's not marfu'. So it has to be something else. It's called ismu inna, but that's the next lesson. That's the next lesson. Here, what we're dealing with, the mubtada is always marfu'. And the khabar is always marfu'. But this khabar here is mansoob. But that's because it's not just khabar, it's khabar kana. Now, what's the important part to take out of this? The important part to take out of this is that the noun following kana, it's the subject of the sentence, is going to stay marfu'. Whereas the information or the predicate about that noun following kana is no longer going to be marfu', it's going to be mansoob. That's the important part that we got to take out of it, being non-Arabs. That the noun following kana that we're talking about is going to stay marfu', but the information about that noun is going to be mansoob. Versus when it didn't have kana, they were both marfu'. And as you go on later on down the line, all this will make much more sense. Because you're going to have certain things. It's going to say you're going to be able to make columns. Once you have Arabic grammar, you're going to have stuff like called al-marfu'at, al-mansubat, right? And al-majzumat, and other than that. So what you'll be able to do is, you would say, what's marfu'? What's marfu'? Marfu' so far with us is al-mubtada. The mubtada is marfu'. The khabar is marfu'. The fa'il is marfu'. Ismu kana is marfu'. Right? Then we'll be able to say what's mansoob so far with us? The maf'ulun bihi. So far the maf'ulun bihi is mansoob with us, as well as khabru kana. You understand? So you'll be able to know what words are marfu', what words are mansoob, what words are majroor, what words are majzoom, like this. You'll be able to tell, and when you're able to discuss these matters like this, then that means you understand Arabic, and you'll be able to start to understand the details of the Arabic language. You'll start to get a better understanding of the Arabic language. Now, I'm saying this to say that many Arabs don't know this stuff. Many Arabs do not know this stuff. They know it enough to pass a test. They can sit down in 5 minutes and review it and pass a test, but they can't apply it. And this is why their amiyah, their like colloquial speech is messed up. Because they don't understand these rules. Right? They don't have mansoob and marfu' and majroor inside their amiyah. They don't have that. It doesn't exist inside of their amiyah. They just say a verb and then say whatever they want after it, whether it's mansoob, majroor, marfu', it don't matter. But they understand it amongst themselves because they understand how they use the language. And that's why it's difficult to learn and understand them, because they don't use rules. But the importance of knowing what is this is because later on you'll be able to determine what is those things which are marfu'. What are those things which are mansoob? And so on and so forth. So, like for instance, the maf'ulun bihi is important to us right now, being mansoob. Now, like I said, the important part that we take out of this, the khabar, the information about the noun that we're explaining, after kana becomes mansoob. And then it has sisters. And then kana has sisters. So the first one we say, ath-thawb qasir. The thawb, the clothing is short. The shirt is short. The thawb qasir. The thawb is short. Well, al-bard qaris. Al-bard, the cold. Qaris is, 1 second. Severe, just like shadid. Haris, shadid, hard, it's severe. The cold is severe. Now we have kana, which is a sister. Ukhtu kana. So we say Sara. Sara means to become. Meaning changing from one thing to another. From one condition to another. Sara ath-thawb qasiran. We see that our mubtada became ismu Sara. It stayed marfu'. And the khabar became mansoob. Khabru Sara. All you do is change the name. Khabru kana, khabru Sara. You just have to learn kana. Once you learn this rule, if I stop for a second, I know it's hard. Wallahi, I know it's hard. I used to cry. I still think about crying sometimes. But, inshallah, we'll get there. If we understand that the mubtada and the khabar are marfu', and when they come after kana, then the mubtada stays marfu', although its name changes. So what? And the khabar becomes mansoob, and the name changes. Who cares about the name change for real right now? We will later on, but right now, the important part is that we read the word correctly, or that we make the sentence correctly. Right? If we want to make a sentence. Once we understand that, then we can replace kana with any of its sisters. We can replace kana with any of its sisters. So Sara, kana to another. Right? Laysa is a negation. Right? Asbaha means basically to come into the morning, right? To come into the morning. Like we talked about, certain du'as when a person wakes up, right? Asbaha. Here we have amsa, which is to come into the evening. We had du'as that talked about the du'as of the evening time. What happens when you enter into the evening time? So you can go back and look at those du'as and say, what happened there? And here we have adha. We should know what that is. That means to come into duha time. Duha time. Meaning hour or two after Fajr. Right? Then we have dhalla, which means, okay, al-mataru ghazir, the matar is strong. Dhal al-mataru ghazir. Dhala means like dhalla, meaning to it's hard to translate. That's the whole part. They give you a word in Arabic, what it means. But even that's hard to translate. Basically, like to stay all day long. Dhalla meaning to stay all day long. And bata means to stay all night long. As we said, the word bata comes from, or the word bait comes from bata, meaning to spend the night. Bait is how you spend the night. So Allah says, as we talked about, we gave the example in Surah Al-Furqan. In the end of Surah Al-Furqan, he talks about Ibad al-Rahman, those who are the slaves of Ar-Rahman. He says, وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ, those who, from this word, bata yabitu, they spend their night worshiping and prostrating. You know, they spend their night prostrating and standing in salah. So, bait means a place where you spend the night, or to spend the night, right? So here we have al-misbah, muttaqid, wal-marid, muta'allam. Let's use that one. The sick person is in pain, muta'allam. Bat al-maridu muta'alliman. The sick person spent the whole night in pain. We see how this verb bata. So all of these are going to do the same thing Kana did. The news they're talking about is going to stay marfu'. The mubtada, the noun that they're talking about, is going to stay marfu', and the information about that noun is going to be mansoob. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult. It's a lot. If I stuck with Kana, it wouldn't be hard. But the fact that Kana has sisters, and not just one or two of them, but 7 or 8 of them, then it makes it hard. I understand that. But this concept here, inshallah, this Kana should not be that difficult. It's difficult, no doubt. But it shouldn't be so difficult that we can't understand it. When Kana appears before the noun, before a nominal sentence, it's going to, the mubtada is going to become the ism of Kana, and it's going to stay marfu', and the khabar is going to become khabar Kana, and it's going to become mansoob. Now, where am I at? All of these, Kana, Sara, Asbaha, Amsa, Adha, what's the next one? Dhalla and Bata.
Allah, Talla.
And then with the other one we had was Dhalla. I got a dot on there on my screen. Then we had Laysa. Okay. First off, all of these are conjugatable, meaning kana, yakunu, and it can become kanat, takunu, kuntu, akunu, kunna, nakunu. They could be I, you, we, he, she, all of them. Sara, sarat, surta, surti, asbahtu, amsaytu, adhaytu, dallaltu, all that. All of them could be past. No. All of them can be conjugated into all the different forms, including laysa. But these up here can be past, present, and command. Amr. Whereas laysa is only in the past. There is no present tense for laysa nor a past tense because it's a negation. There's no past, present tense, nor command. Right? But every other one of them can be present, past, or command. And all of them conjugate. So I can say, Lastu Sheikhan. Let's look at that sentence. Lastu Sheikhan. I am not a sheikh. We said laysa makes the information about it stay marfu', and the information about that thing that it's talking about, mansub, right? Just like kana. So where is my noun that I'm talking about here? Tu, meaning ana. I am not lastu sheikhan. The information about ana is mansub. Lastu sheikhan. Lastu sheikhan. So, like I said, I know it's difficult, but we're going to have plenty of times to see these in practice. If there's no other questions, I want to say one last thing that if I didn't confuse you already, I will super confuse you. But I want to see if you have any questions about this first.
I don't know how late you want to stay. If we can go quickly through some of these words, so I can write down what they mean.
I will send you, inshallah, a translation for all of these.
Jazakallah khair.
Inshallah ta'ala.
Send me my hadith.
Okay.
Did you?
I sent it to you yesterday already.
You sent it yesterday?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, yesterday I sent the picture to you of it. Okay, now I'm going to say one last thing. Yarhamakallah. To, for instance, just blow your mind and make you forget everything I just taught you. Yarhamakallah. Okay, we learned this hadith. Kana An-Nabiyyu sallallahu alayhi wa sallama idha ra'a al-matar and then the dua, right? Okay, forgive me for what I'm about to do. Here we have kana. Then we have ismu kana. Kana nabiyyu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. All of what we're explaining here in this page, in these examples that I gave, these are simple sentences. Simple sentences containing containing 1, 2, 3 words. Kana az-zihamu shadid. كان البيت نظيفا. هكذا. كان زحام شديدا. Simple sentences. Now here in our hadith we find the word kana a lot. If we go back, we find most of our hadith probably began with that. We have, for instance, another one. We go back to chapter 43. It says, Dhaha An-Nabi. No, this is a different word. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's just stick with this one. But there's a lot of them. A lot of them say kana. Kana yaqulu. Kana this, kana that. So where we have our ismu kana being marfu. We have that there. But where is the khabaru kana? What's going to happen is they're going to break down the rest of this sentence, or a part of it, however. They're going to start talking about what these parts are, and then they're going to say, I'm just going to put it like this. Once they break down all these parts inside of here, as if it's another sentence, because we have that in English as well. We have phrases inside of sentences that first we might break down the phrase, and then we break down the whole sentence. Right? So what's going to happen is we're going to say kana, past tense verb, nabi, ismu kana, marfu, and then we're going to go here and we're going to break down the rest of this sentence. Either such and such, ra, such and such, mata, such and such. And then we're going to say that this sentence or this phrase is in the position of khabru kana mansoob. It's this whole phrase is going to be the khabru kana mansoob. Right? But it's just like this is the position. Because once we have ismu kana, we have to have khabru kana. Khabru kana. So what's going to happen is this whole phrase is going to then become the khabru kana mansoob in the position of mansoob. It's not going to really be, it's going to be like, ideologically mansoob, because every other word has a position. So that's how our sentences are going to be in our hadith books and stuff like that. But we'll get chances for simple sentences and stuff like that where we'll be able to use them inside of hadith and in the books, inshallah ta'ala. But I just want you to know, if you go back and look inside our book and say, well, I saw kana nabiyyu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam idha istayqadha qala, I don't see anything marfu or mansoob there. Where's the khabru kana? I want you to know that khabru kana can be a phrase. Right? And it's going to be in the position of being mansoob.
If I was
right?
to say,
even though we may not see the mansoob of it.
الزحام كان شديد.
Now that I just destroyed everything I taught you. Are there any other questions?